You were not kidding that you had a damn surprise for us. What an opening graphic. Really getting me jazzed up about today's episode of Fourth and Forever. Folks, welcome to another edition of your favorite midday NFL show on the damn internet. Listen, we are just days away before the legal tampering period in the NFL, and you know what that means. Football is damn back, and we are excited to be unpacking all of the main topics surrounding your favorite league. Joined by myself, Richie, and TD Finstock. Just kidding. TD's not here. So we needed to bring in a good friend of ours, our Airbnb buddy, our Senior Bowl buddy, Troy, a.k.a. Dose of Dion 2.0. Troy,
welcome
talk to the people.
Forever.
What's going on, man?
Man, I feel like I won something, man. I'm always in the chat. I'm like, yo, I'm getting on the show today. So when TD hyped me up, when TD called me, I was fired. It was like calling into a radio show, and they're like, "All right, you're on it now. Turn down the volume." So I'm fired up, and it's perfect because I just opened the shirt today for Roundtable Sports.
Show it off. What is it?
So you know what I mean? It's the perfect time. It's like, all right, it's just meant to be. I unpackaged this today. TD calls me. It's meant to be, man. I'm excited to be here.
Everybody check out Dose of Dion's YouTube channel. He's filling in for TD, and you don't got too big of shoes to fill. You know, it's easy to fill in for TD.
Yeah, exactly. It's actually quite refreshing. You know what I mean? Like, we might not have any brain rot takes for the next hour, which is great. But TD, we love you. We miss you. Can't wait to see you on Monday. Richie, how's life? And by the way, sick ass intro, man. Holy hell. Yes.
You like the new intro, folks? You like it or what?
It was incredible, folks. Guys, sound off in the chat and let us know what your thoughts of that intro that came in. That shit was hot.
You liked it, huh? Yeah, listen, man, we put in a lot of work behind the scenes. I'm trying my best to build a company and a network that is filled with excellent quality.
Oh, bro. About to say it, man. So does anyone in the chat got some Jergens? Send it over to your boy.
Hey, man, listen, we're trying our best here at Roundtable Sports. Appreciate all the support, man. And that's why anybody that becomes a member, any super chats, anything like that, you know where it's going. It's going right to stuff like that. And speaking of that, Travis has become a member. And not only is Travis a member, he gifted 10 memberships. Travis, thank you so much for gifting 10 members, all right? McFuller got a membership. Habitual Line Stepper, MZ Relentless, Big Papa Bill, Why Me the Jets Fan, One of a Kind Outdoors, Big Tizzle, Thomas, hey, the Robster Report, our Panthers representative got a membership. Dicker the Kicker, nice. All got memberships courtesy of Travis. So thank you, Travis. We appreciate it. And then he finally comes in with a $2 super chat. Jets are coming for the division. My boy Travis is a Jets fan. My boy Travis is a Jets fan, man. Let him know. Woo! Appreciate you, Travis.
Well, hey, Travis, man. We appreciate that generosity. It certainly goes a long way. So, folks, we have a great show lined up for you today. As always, we do ask you just to hit that thumbs up sign for us, that thumbs up button. It really propels it out to the YouTube algorithm. So more people get to discover and rock with us as we are live Monday through Friday at 2 p.m. EST. And by the damn way, how about everybody in the chat sounds off and lets us know what team they are currently representing? I'm always curious to see how far Fourth and Forever truly extends out into the NFL universe. But guys, let me tell you what, we have a damn topic list. And the first one that I kind of wanted to start off today is Terrel Bernard, linebacker for the Buffalo Bills, ultimately ended up getting extended to a 4-year contract worth about $50 million. $25.5 million was guaranteed. And Troy, I'm not sure about you, man, but the one metric that pisses me off the most is annual average salary. And so you want to know why, Troy?
Please.
Because I think that it's wildly misleading. All I like to look at when it comes into contracts is fully guaranteed money, because that is specifically what goes against the cap immediately. If a player wants to earn the remainder of his non-guaranteed money, he has to be on the roster. He has to hit certain escalators. 9 times out of 10, when you see guaranteed money minus the non-guaranteed, it largely gives the team a quote-unquote out, and largely that is what I feel like people should be looking for. But that is how the vast majority of these contracts are set up across of the league. I am super excited to bring back our linebacker for the Buffalo Bills. Thoughts on my take there? Should people be obsessed with annual average salary? Your thoughts on that?
I mean, for me, like, no. I mean, well, we see this all the time, especially I think when you get to the larger contracts. Typically, it's just the back end. We have a couple years that are just massive numbers, and like, all right, it's not going to stay on that. Like, I know, for example, for us, and it also comes down to flexibility too, mainly. Like, I know, for example, us, we have golf next year, and people love to talk about quarterback contracts. His cap next year is 70 million. Okay, so it's not going to stay there. That's assuming it's going to be restructured. So I like looking at the guarantees, but it also means that I think the higher guarantees that you get for a shorter term contract, you can also anticipate teams are probably going to start throwing void years because that's what you get. The higher guarantees, you're getting more void years with these contracts. You go to guys that make less guaranteed money, you're just not getting those back end deals. So it's just more, I think, of it's the confidence in the player that hey, he's going to work out throughout the entirety of this contract. That's the goal here, and we're okay with locking you into that to open up some flexibility on the cap numbers. So I think it's just a little bit of it's truly what it is. It's guaranteed. We trust you. We trust that this is going to work out long term.
Yeah, most definitely. It was something the Buffalo Bills needed to do because we are still over the cap at this point. I haven't heard the specifics of exactly how much was going to be reverted right to his base salary. Obviously, his $25.5 million is going to be equally calculated throughout the 4 hours. Wow, Richie, okay. That's how you feel about my analysis. Look at that.
No, I was trying to get this on the screen for you.
That was it. Have Terrel Bernard over here, man. It was massive at 25.5. That is split out equally across 4 years. I can only assume that his base salary is going to be down to about $1.2, $1.3 million. Not a bad move. $6 to $7 million cap hit this year. Richie, thoughts on your take when it comes into when you see contract? Does average annual salary scare you? What scares you about a contract? What should people be looking for?
Guaranteed money is what you look for when you can get out of it, right? When you can get out of it. A perfect example of that is, my New York Jets, they signed Allen Lazard to a 4-year contract 2 years ago. You're like, 4 years to Lazard, and then I looked at the details, and you're like, oh, no, this is just a 2-year deal technically because the money runs out after 2 years, and that's exactly what's about to happen. The Jets are about to release Lazard any moment, and he's gone. So I think the first thing you look at a contract is when does the guaranteed money end? Because I always bring up the basketball analogy. Basketball, everything's guaranteed. You look at AAV, that's how much they're getting no matter what. When you sign a 4-year deal, that's what they're getting for 4 years. But football contracts are different. So I think, the $24.2 million guaranteed for Bernard, it's a good deal. I mean, almost half the contract, if not, just under half of the contract is guaranteed. So that's a good contract for Bernard, and I think the Bills are taking advantage of it. Now he's the 5th highest paid interior linebacker in the NFL. So I think that the Bills are taking care of their own. And is this just sending more messages to James Cook? They're extending anybody but him. I mean, James Cook's out there like, hey, man, I'm worth 50 mil. 15. And then the Bills are out here doing these types of things. And shout out to Bonnie, by the way, for becoming a new Roundtable Sports member. That is freaking awesome. Thank you, Bonnie. We appreciate that. And all the new members, spam the emojis because you guys have new access.
See, the James Cook situation for me has been wild because, yes, I understand, but I have never seen more people get up in arms about James Cook saying that he wants $15 million per year. Honestly, when you compare that to some of the edge rusher contracts that are coming out, or hell, even DB contracts, for example, Christian Benford, his market value right now is sitting at around $28 million per year. QBs are walking away with damn 50 to 60, or at least will within the next couple of weeks, of course, depending on what Brock Purdy's about to get, right? As much as I wouldn't be pissed off if James Cook does get a deal around that area, because no running back contract is going to bankrupt an NFL organization, unless, of course, we're talking about that Le'Veon Bell contract that the New York Jets gave, right? But outside of the New York Jets, for the most part, you're not going to see that. As far as moves to anticipate from the Buffalo Bills, it's probably going to be Gregory Rousseau. Dude's on his 5th-year option right now. If we don't do anything with the man, then that is $15 million against the cap right damn now. So as much as I would be okay with putting James Cook in that line to get extended, somebody is going to have to wait 1 more year. It's either going to have to be him or Christian Benford. And in my opinion, I think that this team is wanting to lock down Christian Benford this year, opposed to James Cook, because God forbid Benford goes out there and balls like I'm anticipating that he is going to. His AAV or his overall projected contract will be about $5 to $10 million more than that in the first place. So it's It's
Interesting.
intriguing.
Folks,
It
do us a
is
favor and
wild.
smash the like button. We do appreciate it. Only 36 likes. Come on now. Hit that like button. We like to get at least 100 likes by every single live show at the end of it, man. We're excited to have Dose of D on here replacing for TD Finn's talk. Let's do it. According to Zachary, this breaking news, but not surprising. Bobby Warner is officially back, or Wagner, he means, is back with the Commanders.
Back with the Commanders, man.
All right.
Back with the Commanders. Unk is back at it, baby.
Unk is back at it indeed.
He's back at it, man. He'll be flying around the Washington Commanders. Oh, back seven. I'm looking forward to it. Front seven. All right. So moving on, we have to talk about Myles Garrett situation. Like, we've heard the Cleveland Browns dancing around this situation for the past couple of weeks. Heard that Myles Garrett wants out, and the Cleveland Browns said, no, I don't have any interest in trading this guy. But the plot thickened as well. Apparently, the owner of the Cleveland Browns is not even meeting with Myles Garrett. He has refused to even have a conversation with this guy in the first place. I think how the Browns are handling this is genius, quite frankly. Because when you look at the cap implications that would happen if they were to walk away from Myles Garrett, they would lose out on $16 million in their cap situation right damn now if he's traded before June 1st. And they just had to restructure a terrible contract with Deshaun Watson to get out of the hole that they were already in. If they want to walk away from Myles Garrett and trade him, they are going to have to wait for June 1st, or otherwise that whole restructure for Deshaun Watson would have been all for nothing. I think how the Browns are handling this is great because they're acting like, nah, we're going to go out ahead. We're just going to hold on to the rights of him. And if he sits out, he sits out. Because I think that's making NFL teams even more desperate. I think that we're going to start seeing closer to like a 2 first-round picks, 3 first-round picks, because people are just like, oh, no, hell no. Like, we need Myles Garrett. I actually commend the Browns for taking advantage of a very shitty situation. Dose.
Yeah.
What do you think the Browns are ultimately going to do? They're saying that they don't want to trade him. He just made it clear that he will hold out. Say, for example, that they don't. What do you think the Browns' true intentions are?
I initially thought, like, for sure this guy's going to get traded. Like, I didn't think there was a real conversation to it. I thought he's going to get traded eventually. But there was always that major pushback because of the large dead cap that came along with it. It was like you just pointed out, they got to create flexibility just to move him. That's not a good situation for the team. But after speaking to the Browns fans that I know, they kind of opened my eyes a little bit about this. And I'm excited to see how this plays out because it feels like both sides are like, we're not caving. Like Myles Garrett, I'm not coming back. It's not going to happen. But we've seen the Browns be a part of this before. So I just want to remind people, it's a lesser degree, that the David Njoku situation did happen. And there was a period of time where everybody expected this guy at some point is going to get traded. David Njoku is not going to be a Brown. Then ultimately, as we know, he gets extended. Now he's advocating for Myles Garrett to stay around. And the Cleveland Browns have been willing to play that game where they're like, look, man, we said we're keeping you around. We're going to keep you around. So my belief has, I think, shook a little bit. I think if I was guessing right now, I think he ultimately, at least for this next season, is absolutely going to be a Cleveland Brown. And I don't count out the possibility that they're going to try to find a way to extend Myles Garrett and keep him around, and they're going to give him a massive contract. They have the Deshaun Watson thing to work around, and I think right now that's a little bit more kind of under the surface of something that's like they're trying to, of course, actively work off of, but we all know the situation. They got to figure out quarterback. My guess is they're going to sign a veteran to a very cheap deal. I think Kirk Cousins is going to wind up in Cleveland, and I think ultimately Myles Garrett's going to end up staying there.
Really?
I think they're going to hold their I think they're going to hold their ground. I don't think they're going to move off him. And I think it's ultimately going to turn into maybe he does sit out a little while and an extension is going to happen down the road. That's
that, or maybe they ship him off closer to the trade deadline, like one of the two, right?
Yeah, I mean, like, right? Like, but now it puts the Browns in a tough spot, right? We get to the trade deadline because of where their roster's at. Like, I think the offseason is definitely the time to do it, right? Because every team has all of this cap space. You get to the deadline, nobody has any money. So at that point, if I have to take on anything, it's like, yo, what team is going to have the cap space at that time to be able to move him, to be able to pick him up at that point? You know, you guys have to come in with the expectation at some point we're trading for him. We better leave that much cap space available. It puts everybody in a bind as soon as the draft happens because now you're signing everybody. Your roster's full. We don't have money to spend. So my guess is that this thing's going to roll into next year. Now, I think to your point, it's possible that, yes, down the road he ends up getting moved and maybe the deadline is the way to do that. But if I had to guess now, I think he's going to stick around with the Browns.
Damn.
Yeah.
Insight. I mean, we don't get that insight from TD. You know?
Yeah. Nah, we don't.
I could be completely wrong too.
It's half the time when TD's not even paying attention. It's half of the time when TD's not even paying attention, and we got to remind him what topic we're on. You know what I mean?
True. True.
But Richie, thoughts on this? Has Dose made you a believer, or do you still think that it's just a matter of time before Myles Garrett is in a different uniform?
Yeah, I mean, I respect Dose of Dion's insight, but I just completely disagree. You know, I mean, it's just that simple. He's not going to be around.
I completely disagree.
Respectfully disagree. He ain't going to be a Cleveland Brown. I mean, he made a very. I never seen somebody go out there and be that assertive with a statement the way that he has. He is going to do whatever he possibly can, and I think he's doing it in the most professional way possible as well. I think he's doing it in a way where he doesn't want to be holding the Browns hostage. He doesn't want to have that feeling of being toxic to the organization. He released a statement. He said, I want out, and it's into the Cleveland Browns organization to make it happen. And hopefully they can work out a partnership in terms of getting him out of here. And I think the post-June 1st situation is very intriguing. You know, the whole ownership getting involved, it's definitely a tricky situation. We're talking about a generational talent that's being wasted on a team like the Cleveland Browns. And he is determined. Him and his camp has dug their claws in to this. I don't think anything, not even a contract, because it's deeper than money. And that's what people need to realize. It's not about money. It's about Garrett realizing, I am being wasted here. I'm in my prime for who knows how much longer. I want to go out there and at least go to the playoffs and be competitive with these teams. So it's not about the Browns figuring out a way to, extend him long term. I know all of a sudden people are like, oh, Deshaun Watson's restructured deal freed up money for Cleveland. Who cares? Cleveland can offer him the same amount of contract that Max Crosby got, and he still would say no because he knows he'll get that on another team. So that's my perspective of it. I think that he wants out, and he's going to do anything he wants to get out of there. It's deeper than money.
It's a hell of a lot deeper than money. And honestly, a follow-up question, what the hell are the Cleveland Browns even thinking at this point? They so clearly need to, have a full-on damn rebuild, start from damn scratch. I think it could be a very similar situation of what the Giants are going through right now. People are just oh, okay, why are they going to go with an old guy like Aaron Rodgers, or why were they so interested in bringing in Matthew Stafford? It's not because it's the smart thing to do, but we're looking at a head coach and a GM that knows that their seat is fire hot. And if they don't win immediately, they're probably going to get fired. I could almost say that about Stefanski. It doesn't matter what happens. I don't think that they are going to give him an excuse. If the Browns roll out there next year and don't at least improve a tad, I think that they are going to fire him. So maybe it's him and that front office that's trying to hold on. I don't know.
Yeah, it's a really interesting conversation that needs to be had. And the Browns set their franchise back right when they gave Watson that money, man. I'm just telling you, that's where it started.
Well, so from what I understand, it sounds like that now, all of his guarantees are done except for his salary next year. So I guess the light is at the end of the tunnel for them with the Watson contract. But
finally,
it's got to be, dude, those poor Browns fans, man. Listen, you know what? Say that I ever have a daughter, right? And she brings home a Browns fan. Then you know what, man? I am going to have zero questions about that man's loyalty. I will have zero questions about it.
Jets.
Someone to root for a dumpster fire, as long as some of these people have been doing, is truly commendable. It really is. But anyway,
about the Jets
and the Jets as well, and the Jets as well, man. I can tell you that much. But I'll tell you what. You know what? We did ask Troy to come on and fill in for TD today, and Troy is the top Lions creator on the internet. Okay, that's just a damn fact.
Top.
And obviously, I wanted to talk about the Lions because the Lions did ultimately end up making a move a bit earlier this morning. They secured a 3-year contract extension with Derek Barnes, all right? They are doing whatever they can to bring back some of their guys, particularly on the defensive side of the football. And I got to tell you, Troy, the one thing that really broke my heart, I think, the most about the Lions last year was that y'all caught the injury bug, and it showed you no mercy. It showed you absolutely no mercy. Anytime I would tune into a Lions game, one of your key defensive players was getting carted off of the field, it seemed like. So I think when I ask you, what's a perfect offseason for you, I feel like I'm reframing the question to how are you fixing this defense? Right now, you have about $50 million to play with, at least according to Over the Cap. Have some draft picks, of course, here and there. Where do you see the Lions going, especially since now that you have two brand new coordinators? How do you think Dan Campbell and company is going to approach it? And who are some perfect fits for you? Like, who are you targeting in free agency? Like, who are your top draft choices? Talk to us, man.
Okay.
How do we get the Lions back on top of the NFC North and potentially in the Super Bowl in 2025?
Inspiring.
Yeah. Well, look, man, you got to start. You got to start with depth. I mean, for us, the problem is all our depth got hurt. So it's kind of like one of those things. It's like, all right, let's just add some depth in free agency. Dudes all get hurt. It's like, okay, it doesn't really matter. I think what Brad Holmes said, who's the Lions general manager, what he said going back to all this kind of trade buzz and the Lions were thrown into the Myles Garrett, sweepstakes because people feel with where they're at, like, oh, you make that one move, you're going to get there. And I understand that, but I think what he said is important where you understand what you went through last year. If we traded for Myles Garrett, and you have the injuries happen like they did, it's like, what do we have depth-wise at that point? Like, are we back in the kind of the same position we are last year? So for us, I think the first and foremost thing, because of the way that they've chose to build this team, and we see that today with the Derek Barnes deal. Look, that deal for us is you're talking about a guy, like if you look at what PFF projected him to get, it was 1 year, $2.5 million. That was his projected contract this offseason. He gets 3 years, $16 million guaranteed. That's the kind of move that you make where the Lions have a different value on a player than the other teams do in the NFL. He's sticking true to his word, and he's never moved off of that of we're going to re-sign our players. He calls them known goods. We know they're good in our system. They're going to come back. And I think that's the first and foremost approach for the Lions this offseason is how many of these guys can we get back that are known goods? Derek Barnes was the first domino of that. Carlton Davis may not. It sounds like he may move on to Richie's Jets. Yeah, look, man, every day we start getting some tweets and stuff. It's like, okay, the Jets are doing something here.
Levi Onwuzurike.
Not Levi, though. See, Levi's the guy we got to
home.
keep. You know what I mean? That's the guy that we need to keep around. We're not going to let that happen.
No, Levi's coming to the Jets, too.
Okay, we can talk about that. I don't think it's going to happen, but, those are the kind of guys that the focus is going to be first and foremost. All of their big money spending, it's going to go there. It's going to go what of these group can we get back? Can we get all of these guys back? Majority of them back. And then it's just kind of building out from there. Here's what I'd say for the Lions to keep an eye out for free agency. Their cap space this year is good, as you brought up, Dan, but it's the future. Look at their numbers. They're very little. They don't have a lot of cap space. It's going to start turning into a restructuring game for them. It's going to turn into all these players that they continue to extend from rookie contracts. They're going to have to utilize that flexibility to move their money around, which is going to kind of change, I think, the outlook of how free agency goes into the future of, hey, you paid these guys, you better be confident. So this offseason is about which guys are they confident in long-term, and then if you're going to go sign outside house guys, get the short-term deals. It's going to be what can we offer you for 1 year to come in? Because that's where our flexibility lies, is we have 1 year flexibility, a little bit less down the road. That's why the big trade idea I always thought for Lions was difficult to make sense. Because it's like, yeah, we can handle it now. But as soon as you extend Myles Garrett or whoever to a big deal, and then you pair that with Hutch, and he's going to get extended, you just don't have any money. We have no flexibility. We're going to get trapped if somebody gets hurt.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Yeah.
It's funny because I'm trying to put myself in the shoes of the Lions GM right now.
Yeah.
And I feel like I have the answers for you. All right. Like free agency is looking like we're bargain bin shopping here. We're going for some vets, some cheap vets on a 1 year deal. This is what I do. 2 specific moves, and they are added to your defense. Number 1, a 1 year deal for Khalil Mack. I honestly don't believe that he is going to be that pricey. He is just 2 years removed from leading the NFL in overall sacks. He was still pretty productive over in the Harbaugh system last year. A solid insurance policy. When Hutch comes back, that's a pretty deadly defensive line, right? Worst case scenario, and you could probably also bring in old-ass Calais Campbell as well, right in the defensive tackle side of things. Interior defensive line, 1 year deal, more than likely something cheap. Splash move, hear me out, could be a Chavarius Ward, a corner on the outside, an upgrade right to Carlton Davis as well. Now, obviously, he's not going to be in the 1 year category. Like, he's going to be your big spender right there.
Yeah.
But afterwards, I'm sure you could also address quite a bit with the draft by itself. Richie, so you're the GM of the Lions, man. Like, who are you targeting, bro? Like, who do you want to bring to Detroit? It's Motor City action. Talk to us.
Motor City action. Well, first and foremost, Aaron Glenn's gone, so they're done. I mean, he's the reason why they're. I mean, let's be honest. They're gonna wish they elevated Glenn as their head coach, and then Dan Campbell left. All jokes aside, man, I like the Lions a lot, and I think that the cool thing about them is they have an identity and they have a sense of underdog mentality now. I think they're about to approach because a lot of people are counting them out without Ben Johnson, without Aaron Glenn, and I'm excited. I'm excited to see who they bring in. I feel like what Troy says makes so much sense. If you're the Lions, you just got to keep all the players on the roster the same. I mean, you where are there holes on this team besides the health last year? The health is where everything fell apart for them, in my opinion, on defense more specifically. So you keep prioritizing the trenches. I think double down where you're best at. Kevin Zeitler, I think he's expected to leave, right? So I think replacing him is going to be pivotal. So there's a lot of interesting moves for the Lions, and I think more it's going to be about how this coaching staff can get the most out of these guys, because what made Aaron Glenn a head coach, in my opinion, one of the reasons is he got the depth chart guys to be able to play like starters because they had to, because there was injuries across the board. So I'm curious to see how this Lions team looks heading into the season, and excited to see who they bring in free agency. And I do see something new, man.
Whoa, dude. Stop blowing my mind. Stop it, bro.
What is this?
That is crazy. It's moving around. It's crazy stuff, man. Listen,
I don't think Troy sees it.
I see it. I'm zoomed in. I had to zoom in my screen so I can really get the full effect.
I'm not messing around. We're
Look at that.
live
We have the
testing
fourth-
on the show. We're not even. This
So
is a
we have
beta.
the fourth and forever moving background right by. Oh my God, man. Listen, I absolutely.
Is that a
love
soft lunch, bro? Should I just save that for next week?
it. No, hell no. You leave that up immediately. There's no questions.
Good.
So I had a follow-up question for Troy. And obviously it's early, man, right? Because like free agency hasn't started yet. The draft hasn't started yet. I got to ask you, right? As reigning NFC North champions, okay? The rest of your division, like who scares you the most as a possible threat to steal that from you in 2025? Packers, Vikings, Bears?
Yeah.
Who scares you, you would say?
I always say nobody, to be honest with you, man. It just is what it. No, I mean, look, man. How can you say anybody when you win 15 games? Like, I mean, respectfully,
right.
it's like
You're
you know,
right.
you believe you're going to beat everybody. I think last year Minnesota was like, oh, okay, Minnesota's legit. Now we play them really well, but you lose Ben, and Ben had he was always so great against Flores, and that was the one guy in the past that Goff had a horrible game against with Miami. When he was with Miami, he was a disaster. We play him every time. It's like Goff's best game is Minnesota. So I think just based on the respect that you have for Minnesota, they're keeping their staff around. They have to be thrown into the mix because they could upgrade at quarterback this offseason. But to be honest with you, it's Chicago. Like, Chicago's the team. I thought it was last year Chicago. I think it's Chicago again this season. I think what Ben Johnson is doing, while I think some of the moves are shaky, like I don't know if the Jonah Jackson thing makes sense because of his price point. That's why I think we just let him go. But I think that his approach is perfect. It's like, how do we make this thing right fast? Just go get proven offensive linemen. We're just going to go sell to go get offensive linemen right now because we have the cap space to do it. With the Lions, you're paying quarterback, but them, they're not paying that. So they'll have that money and flexibility to just kind of go for it right now. And I think Ben Johnson understood that. He was looking at it the same way. He thought Chicago Bears were a lot closer than they were, and then last year happened, and it was a disaster. I think if you get an actual play caller with Caleb Williams, they have a ton of talent in a lot of spots. I think that team is, from a roster perspective, the most dangerous team not named the Lions.
Oh, man. That's a clippable moment right there, Richie. Write that down.
I will
not
write
gonna
that
win the
down.
division.
That right there is the X clip right there. Lions fan is secretly a massive Bears fan. That's what it is.
Don't do
right?
that. Don't see, these Bears fans
Yeah,
are crazy.
yeah.
You know what I mean? That'll go
Lions
everywhere.
fan and Bears glazer.
Wow.
No. I'm just kidding, man. I love it. It's pretty solid. Richie, who presents the biggest threat to the Detroit Lions next year? Obviously, this is way too early. Talk to us on this.
I will talk to you about this as soon as I make everything move.
Yo, why is it not moving?
Because we're uploading it. Listen, I think that the Detroit Lions, they got to worry about the Chicago Bears.
The Bears.
They got to worry about the
Go
Bears.
ahead, brother.
They got to worry about the
Talk to us
Bears.
about them Bears.
You should be worried about those Bears. Caleb Williams now has everything he needs. You know, the one thing you're worried about Caleb Williams is what? You don't have an offensive line? Is that the big issue with Caleb Williams? Well, guess what, Troy? They got an offensive line. What made Ben Johnson who Ben Johnson is? How did he make Jared Goff who he is? The offensive line. Now, it's not nearly as good as the Lions yet. They still got a long way to go. But I think that if you're a Chicago Bears fan, you see the two trades that they made, that's the team you got to watch out for. I mean, I really do believe that he's destined to go crazy this year, Caleb Williams. I don't know if you agree with that. I don't know if that's a hot take, but I really genuinely believe that. And now it's finally loaded, so now I can go boom. It's still not loading. All right, so I think the Detroit Lions got to worry about Chicago. That's my pick.
Chicago Bears, I would probably have to agree with you as well. As long as they don't lay an egg completely in free agency, which they haven't already, and they don't lay an egg right in the draft, I really think that they can fill in the vast majority of the holes that plagued them last year. I'm not so much concerned about the Vikings because I just have a feeling that they're going to roll with Sam Darnold. And they're going to see the Sam Darnold that showed up on week 18 and then also during that playoff matchup. And I think that it was a wrong choice. And now I'm even hearing rumors. It's now officially official that teams have been calling Minnesota about McCarthy. So I don't know. A lot of crazy stuff is going to be happening. And as far as the Packers and the Packers are the Packers, right? Like we can go on ahead and just leave that there. But I will tell you what, like this NFC North division is really not close to any sort of rebuild if you were to ask me. But one team in the NFC West is just showing signs on signs on signs that they're just throwing in the damn towel, and this season is a throwaway. And that's the Seattle Seahawks for me. We ultimately end up seeing them release Tyler Lockett, and then now they are taking trade inquiries about DK Metcalf. I don't believe that they have any interest in extending Geno Smith. There's a lot of rumors that they are very high on Jackson Dart, and that is the quarterback they are going to be targeting in the draft by itself. So I present this question to my co-hosts here. Are the Seahawks in full rebuild mode, or is there something else that Mike McDonald is cooking? Richie, enlighten us.
Yeah, I don't think rebuild mode is the right word. Just because you got to reset and like pivot a little bit doesn't mean you have to go full-blown rebuild, blow everything up. Like they got JSN. I think that drafting Jackson Dart would be smart for the Seattle Seahawks. I really do. I think that he's a guy that can come in here and sit and learn behind Geno Smith. The thing about the Seattle Seahawks is they got a young quarterback, and well, I wouldn't say young anymore, right? Geno Smith is not young at this point of his career, right? So I think at the end of the day, you got to look at a lot of the talent on this roster and understand, are they going to go all in this offseason or let this team kind of figure out who they are under McDonald? They got a new offensive coaching staff, so I'm not going to say they're rebuilding. I just think they're in a reset pivot mode as a franchise right now.
A reset pivot mode. Should they extend Geno Smith?
This is his final year?
I believe so. Has no guarantees.
Yeah, I mean, I think you got to see who you're going to draft. If you draft a guy like Jackson Dart, you don't extend him. That's for sure.
Yeah. Interesting. Troy, so would you say that Seattle is showing signs of completely throwing this season away and doing what they can to build a team that Mike McDonald sees as successful?
Yeah, you know what's interesting is I think what you're saying is true, but I think the flip side could also be true. I could see them being better doing what they're doing. If you look at, they're moving off of like every older player, everybody. That's what Draymond Jones. He wasn't even bad last year, moving off. And Jaron Reed's a free agent this offseason. Every veteran's getting moved off of. The guy I would keep an eye on is Reek Woolen because he was in trade buzz like a year ago. I think he's on the final year of his contract. I think at one point he was benched last year. He played majority of the season. He was nice. But like stylistic changes from a defensive coach and just how you're asking guys to play in coverage, guys like that get moved, right? Like, because you could get an actual great returning price, just like Sauce Gardner is going to get moved. So it's one of those things. So I would just, I'll just throw that in there. So, but I think this, it not significantly better. Like, is it a playoff team? Like, no. But could it be better? I think yes, because you're moving off of kind of those overlapping pieces, but they have enough young talent. Like, so if they move off of DK and they get a draft pick, even though they're not going to maybe get what they want here, they have receivers in place like JSN who could just be the number one. So I don't think they're in a spot where they don't have like replaceable players next up. They just don't have elite players at a lot of positions right now. They're just kind of middling, and then they're going to hope for the draft. So I think they could be similar to next year, but I don't think that they're taking that next step. But I think they could, could they improve by a game? Yeah, I think they could. Like last year, it's just like they can't match with teams, and they have to get younger, and I think that's what they're doing.
It is.
Hit that
Wow.
like button, folks. We got 61 likes. We need to get to 100. I need
Yeah,
100
folks,
likes.
honestly, do us a favor. Hit that thumbs up sign. The goal is 150. That is including replays. And if you are watching the replay of this episode, we highly suggest that when you subscribe to the channel, you turn on bell notifications because we really want to build our live chat community over here. It's all a family, right? So make sure that you turn on those bell notifications. So next time you can watch this episode live and watch it in real time.
No, Dan, I have an impromptu.
I love your impromptus, Richie.
And I
Hold
even have
up,
a graphic.
Richie's impromptu.
Richie's
Man.
impromptu, man. Look at this.
Oh, look at that. Talk to me.
Why are you laughing at me, Troy? What's so funny?
This has
Listen,
gotta be
man,
new, right?
it's my impromptu, and this impromptu comes with a graphic, right? You don't think there's no graphic aligned with this? Now, it may or may not be Jets related, but I wanted to get your guys' thoughts, okay? Because this is legit, and it's related to free agency. Relax over there, Dan.
Okay.
I think Justin Fields is coming to the Jets.
Oh, is he?
I really do. I do.
Really?
The Jets are linked to Justin Fields. And a projected contract is 2 year, $20 million. So I wanted to get your thoughts, Troy, if you can gather yourself and be serious for me for a moment. Is Aaron Glenn finding his version of Jared Goff with Justin Fields if they land him, and your thoughts about them getting him?
See, Richie, what you just said, I was good for a second, and then you said that. Richie, when you put the impromptu up and then you switch, and I see Justin Fields' face, man, I'm laughing a little bit. It just is what it is. I mean, but you
Hey, by the way,
leave
I'm not
me
saying I'm jumping for joy about this. I'm just
I
spreading the
know
news.
you are, and I think where you're coming from is I'm on two sides here. Number one, I remember when Justin Fields left our division and Dan Campbell came out and he was like, "I'm happy he's leaving our division," because that dude is a handful to deal with, and it's like even as limited as their passing attack is, he's a handful because he would make ridiculous plays. It was like, all right, we got him, and then he'd run for 70 yards. He's such an elite runner. Like the idea of like, oh, if you just put him at running back, he wouldn't be awesome. Like he would be awesome. I'm not saying make a running back. I'm just saying he'd be awesome as a running back. He's that good as long as he stayed healthy. But the flip side is every time we played Fields, I always felt like there was a different way that we could play Fields than anybody else. Like we would play coverages that we wouldn't play against anybody else because it was so simplified. Maybe that's not all his fault, but it was just such a simplified offense that defensively it was a pretty simplified defense as well, which allowed us to play super fast. It was just, is he going to take off and run for 80 yards? That was the challenge we had to deal with. So 2 years, $20 million. I could see Aaron Glenn saying, look, this guy can be a pain for teams because he's going to go off script. But I also think the flip side, well, not off script, but he can make something out of absolutely nothing. But the flip side of like him expanding your offense, I personally don't believe that's what he does for your offense. So if you're looking for like, oh man, he's going to get everybody involved in the passing attack, I don't think this is the way that I would go. But if you're looking like he could bring stability, and if we kept everything simple offensively and we're trying to just simplify things for the first couple of years, that way we can really maybe get awareness of like, can he win if we ask him to win? Justin Fields could probably bring that to your team. So yeah, it's a cheap option, right? I mean, it's not a good draft class for quarterbacks. Like consensus is not a good draft class.
Thank you.
Not a bad time to do it.
No, not at all. And you
That's a
know
good
what,
price
Richie? I think this brings a dynamic to your offense that the Jets have not seen in quite some time, and that is mobility, right? And don't get me wrong, when DJ Moore was over in Chicago with Justin Fields, he had a hell of a season. So you would pair him with the Garrett Wilsons of the world.
Former college teammate
Who already has that chemistry. Y'all's defense, in theory, should pick up exactly where they left off prior to Saleh being fired. Now with Aaron Glenn's mind. And let's stop pretending that Fields didn't lead the Pittsburgh Steelers, all right, to a winning record before getting benched for Russell Wilson. I actually like this move. And like Troy, again, I don't like this draft class, man. I do not. Like, sure, you guys can go ahead and trade up for Cam Ward, but what if he doesn't work out, right? Like, there's too much mystery. The devil you know is better than the devil you don't, all right? That is something that I was always told. Like, we don't know if Cam Ward's going to be able to transition into the NFL. Just as much as we don't know if a first overall QB is going to be a world beater or a Trevor Lawrence. You just don't know. I think Justin Fields would be pretty damn safe. Worst case scenario, go on ahead, roll the dice on, I forgot who that Florida State QB.
Jordan
Travis. Have him as a backup, as an insurance policy. And if nothing works, as you're continuously just trying to dive into the new Aaron Glenn era of the New York Jets, next year you can always look into the following class, which really has some damn talent.
Now, let me ask you this. If the Jets sign Justin Fields, I still want them to draft a quarterback. Like, I think a quarterback room of Tyrod Taylor, Justin Fields, and a rookie would be great. I don't think Justin Fields coming here makes me not want to draft a quarterback just because his quarterback class isn't great. Draft another one next year if he sucks. Keep trying.
What about Travis though? Like you said those three and you didn't put Travis in there.
Yeah, Jordan Travis. There's a rumblings about him and the Jets that the Jets were a big reason for a setback, according to him and his camp, that they're upset with the Jets, and he removed the Jets in his bio and everything on social media. Maybe this new regime told him we don't have any plans for him. Maybe he's a potential cut candidate. I don't know. I like Jordan Travis out of FSU. I wanted the Jets to draft him, but he has a big injury issue, and this regime did not draft him. So I feel like, would you rather have Jordan Travis or a quarterback that this regime drafts in the mid-rounds as that young guy? That's how I look at it. And Jordan Travis is redshirted last year, so he's just a complete unknown. What about a guy like Kyle McCord if they draft him? Tyler Shaw.
Yeah.
And someone like that, I would be open to. I'm not saying they're better than Jordan Travis. I like Travis's upside, but his injury concern was serious, and I just don't know. I feel like that's how I look at it. A rookie, Justin Fields and Tyrod, and then Jordan Travis going into camp and then cutting him is probably what I think is going to happen.
So I also want to say that Fields would probably have the best offensive line that he's ever had in his entire career.
Yeah. Our offensive line.
He probably would have the best offensive line he's ever had because, like, we all know Chicago has never addressed it until 3 days ago.
I also just am not. Like, the one thing I don't like about Justin Fields personally as a Jets fan is I want desperately to find a franchise long-term quarterback, and I don't have any expectations of him being that. Is it possible? It is. But I just want to draft my guy and have our Josh Allen, have our Mahomes, have our Lamar Jackson. I know it's harder to get the stars, but that's what I want. And I don't see that with Justin Fields. I'm just being honest with you guys.
Rich, I would say though, if Aaron Glenn is trying to follow the same process that I think he was part of with the Lions, Justin Fields at very least, to Dan saying, is going to add like a baseline. You're going to have a floor of like, okay, he can do this offensively. We can at least run these kind of sets offensively. We know what he can run. He's going to be good there. How much is he going to expand is a question, but then you don't have to come into the draft and force a pick because I don't know where they're thinking. I just know that I don't think the quarterback class is that great in general. So you could end up getting a dart round 2 or 3. Like, I think there's a real possibility these guys are going to fall. I think sometimes we expect guys to get pushed up and then they don't just because there's an expectation. The Malik Willis draft, people expected he was going round 1. That dude went round 3. Everybody fell. So there's a real possibility your mid-round pick is a guy that you actually do like. But I think the idea of forcing that pick would be the problem. And if you had him on a 2-year deal, then maybe next year you get the quarterback. You don't want to force that pick when you're trying to get back to let's build this around a new regime. And then that 3rd-round pick or whatever it is, he's not even making the team because, like, we just took a quarterback, take a quarterback. So I'm not saying don't take a quarterback. I hear you, Rich. It makes sense. Take your swings. But at least Fields would add a stability to your offense in the meantime.
I like it.
And the stability. Now, listen, we had a lot of topics that were already graphed out, all right? But I think we only have time for one more, and one that I find pretty interesting. Because yesterday we learned that Christian Kirk was traded over to the Houston Texans for a 7th-round pick, all right? And the funny thing is that he was notified that he was going to be released. But the Houston Texans wanted him so bad that they were like, actually, nah, we're going to trade for him anyway. And now we see Kirk go to a divisional rival over in Houston. And the Jags apparently appear to be cleaning house because the exact same thing could be said for their tight end, Evan Engram, who was released earlier this morning, where they ultimately, he took to X and he was just like, no hate, Duval, but y'all released the dog and I'm ready to bark or something like that, Yeah, something along those lines.
You really need to know.
The Jaguars are cleaning house. I'm still under the impression that they made the wrong move at Trevor Lawrence. I'm sorry, Cam. I love you, Cam. I appreciate all the work that you do for us over here. But is this a sign that they are moving backwards? It's going to be a couple of more years of sad football right before they can build a winner again. I'm going to start off with Troy because he's been wildly positive about every single topic we've had so far. Does that positivity extend to the Jacksonville Jaguars in 2025?
I'll say that I think Evan Engram becoming released yesterday, I thought their moves were simply financial. Like they are just opening up cap space to what you're saying. This team didn't have an identity last year. When you faced Jacksonville, you could say that, there's talent in certain spots. And it just felt like nothing meshed from my perspective. There was not offensively, defensively, as much talent. They had young talent, nothing meshed. They looked all over the place. They had no idea who they were trying to be as a team, and they would get just destroyed by certain football teams. That said, though, I think that a guy like Evan Ingram getting released, this is going to be one of the best tight ends on the market. I mean, he had a great season last year in a limited role, yes. Due to the way he had drop issues, he had one drop this past season. This guy was great last season. So this was just purely, to me, a financial move. And I don't think he's necessarily wrong. This is a bad tight end group for free agency. Him saying he let go of a dog, I'm like, I can understand that, right? I liked how you said it, but I was like, I get it. This is a legit tight end. So to me, this is just purely a financial move. And I'll be honest, this does feel like kind of a reset here. Just those kind of moves all feel like resets because they have no identity for who they're trying to be. And they need to start getting to that direction of who they're actually trying to be as a team.
What about you, Richie? And so do you have any positive thoughts for the Jacksonville Jaguars?
I still got hope for Trevor Lawrence. How about that? I feel like now they got a new coaching staff in the building. I think that the Jaguars have the right man in charge. He lit it up. I mean, listen, I feel like Liam Cohen is going to go out there. And where's UCF Jaguar when we need him? Where is he at? Because I think the Jacksonville Jaguars are not going to be good this year. I don't think that. But I think down the line they will be. And I'm on board. I'm on board, man.
They lost, Richie. I mean, I'll just be honest with you. Like, if you look up the Jacksonville Jaguars and where they rank defensive line secondary, like, they're terrible at all.
Why you gotta throw shit?
Dan said he wanted some negativity, so I'm giving some negativity. Look, the truth is, man, like I said,
some positivity, man.
But look, there could be positives though with Lawrence, because honestly can't get worse. But how long it took them to move off their GM, and it was like, wait a minute, is their GM going to keep them from getting a new coach? Like, it was a mess, man. This team is a mess from roster building. So I completely get like, yo, just give me the cap space. Whatever we were doing was a mess. We need to restart this.
It's funny because a couple of weeks ago, TD actually mentioned this, and he made a comparison to some NFL owners out there that just have no idea what they're doing, like Shad Khan, for example, or David Tepper from the Carolina Panthers, that they treat their NFL team like a real-life fantasy football team, that this is their toy, and it's just fun. Like, they just throw darts at the board and hope that it works, right? Like, oh, yeah, man, I'm about to get this done right over here. And that's a great transition because we also ended up seeing the Tennessee Titans walk away from one of their best defensive linemen, Harold Landry, today. Like, he's being released. So that's another damn edge rusher that is on the market for free agency. I haven't had an opportunity of checking it out, but I'll tell you what, I actually have it right in front of me. I'm going to check out where the Tennessee Titans currently stand as far as cap space is concerned. But I think this was a shock to a lot of Titans fans, at least a lot of buddies of mine that are Tennessee Titans fans. Where are they?
Tennessee Titans fans.
So they have $50 million in like cap spend, right? I'm not particularly sure what it looks like in 2026. Let's take a look here. I mean, 115 next year, it doesn't really make a lot of sense to me. Thoughts on this, Richie? Why was Harold Landry released today?
Yeah, I mean, at first they said that they're going to trade him. And then they realized no one wants him. So we had to cut him. That simple. I mean, it's the same thing. The Jets are like, yeah, we're going to trade Devontae Adams. No, you're not. You're going to release him.
Yeah, right.
So that's pretty much what my expectation with that is. I think at the end of the day, you got to be realistic as a franchise. And now they're finally coming to their senses, if you will, as an organization, Tennessee. Not ideal. Definitely not ideal, but it's the realistic situation that they're in right now that they had to release him because there's no team out there interested in giving up anything for Harold Landry. Unfortunately for him, sorry, sir.
It's scary times in Tennessee. I mean, just think about it, right? Like, Harold Landry
Cam
was.
Ward, do you think, Troy?
Do I? I'm not sure. I'm honestly, I wouldn't like feel good, confident saying they're going to take Cam Ward one. I think a real possibility of them trying to move or take Abdul Carter, because they have no defensive line talent, and rocking with Will Levis again. I know no Titans fans want to hear it, but as time goes on, I think it's possible.
All right. So my TikTok brain is going absolutely nuts right now. Is releasing Harold Landry a telltale sign that they're going with Abdul Carter at number one?
My TikTok brain.
It opens the door. Look, Harold Landry to me was just so overpaid. And here's the concern with Titans is that they just went out and they made that move for L'Jarius Sneed, and he was bad last season. This is a problem that they have this. They went for veterans, and these guys are not playing well for them defensively. Now, he got injured as well. I think he was better before that. But, like, they have money locked up to guys that aren't performing. So to me, Harold Landry was very simply like they tried to trade. I think they were trying actively to move off him. They were trying to move off Joseph Day. They were trying to move off everyone with that team. They were trying to move off everybody, and nobody wanted to bring anybody in from that defensive line. So I think that was. I mean, his cap was like $17 million a year. The guy can't get after the quarterback. He's like average as a pass rusher at best. Like that's a really big problem. You're paying that much money. You don't pay that for a guy that's a good run defender. You don't pay $17 million like that for a guy that's 250 pounds that's playing outside linebacker. Like, so there's a concern with them truly in how they're going about things. But I do think though, for your TikTok brain man, Dan, I think it's possible that they go edge rusher. I think it's on the table.
TikTok brain Dan Mitchell.
I think it's absolutely on the table.
Damn, man. Damn. All right, guys, listen, we have a great announcement. So the first episode of the Dan Mitchell Show is going to be live, all right, in about 15 minutes at 3:15 p.m. EST. I am welcoming on my good friend, Last Second Sports, Jesse, to be my co-host for today because we have quite a few topics that I wanted to unpack. Y'all saw how passionate I was about the Cincinnati Bengals yesterday and how absolutely incompetent they are by focusing way too heavily on their offense and continuously ignoring their defensive needs. And we're also going to discuss a bit about the San Francisco 49ers, how they are walking away from a lot of old talent. Does that mean that they are going to sign Brock Purdy to a record-breaking contract? I'll tell you what, you cannot miss out on this very first episode, guys. Right on this channel, 15 minutes. Highly recommend you check it out, and we will obviously be going to the chat and getting a lot of your thoughts on this. I may be bringing on our Cincinnati Bengals contributor, Zim Houday, as well, because he was not a fan of my Bengals take yesterday, and he wants to discuss it. So, say, for example, you want to hop on in. Have no fear. Shout out to Roundtable Sports for giving me a damn show. The Damned Mitchell Show. That's funny. I like that.
It's exciting times, man. The Dan Mitchell Show launching, man. We're grinding out here. We're trying to build something, and this is the first episode of something special, just like Fourth and Forever is something special too, baby.
Fourth and Forever, guys. Your daily Monday through Friday at 2 p.m. EST NFL news, rumors, and hot take show is about to sign off. But before we go, let's go around the panel and have everyone say their goodbyes. Troy, what do you got to say to the audience, man?
Hey, goodbye. You know what I mean?
Wow.
Appreciate
Hell
you
yeah.
tuning in. No.
Hell yeah, dude. Hell yeah, bro. Yo, by the way, we got to get Troy one of these, bro.
I do need to get one of those. I do, man. I do.
Want one of them?
Yeah, this is real basic over here. I don't even know.
No.
Maybe
It's
if I
nice.
get one, like,
It's super funny because every time I tune into Draftaholics, I like scroll through the comments and it's always everyone being like, "Why could I never hear Troy?"
bro, I
Why
think
doesn't
this
Troy speak into his mic.
I don't know, man. There's an echo button. The sound, the board thing I got connected for whatever reason. As soon as it starts, there's an echo. I don't know why that's a feature, but it's like default. There's got to be an echo. So then it turns everything down. I don't know. I don't know what I bought here, but
I can get you one of these, Troy, if you want one. I know you and Dan have the same exact mic, so I can just get you the same one that I got Dan.
Oh, nice. You have the MV7 as well.
I think maybe
Yeah, he does.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah,
It's the MV7, man. It's pretty solid. You know what? Maybe I'll invest in the one that Richie has. It sounds pretty crispy. What do you got, Richie?
I'm excited for this weekend. We got a lot of fun things happening. Check out the Dan Mitchell Show right after this, of course, folks. We appreciate that. A new little flavor coming to Roundtable Sports. As always, free agency starts on Monday, and we're excited to break it all down here on Roundtable Sports. Big shout out to Dosa Dion for hopping in and filling in for TD Finstock. If you guys did not know, Troy is part of the Draftaholic Show here on Roundtable Sports as well. That show was yesterday. Go check it out. It's not today. It was yesterday. I know the graphic says it was today, but definitely go check out Draftaholics' episode yesterday with Troy, Broshimo, and Colby to going into a deep first-round mock draft. You guys can check that episode out every single Thursday at 5:30 p.m. EST. He's also, of course, on the NFC North Roundtable, which is back this week for a free agency frenzy special episode. So a lot of fun things happening here at Roundtable Sports. Go check out Dosa Dion's channel and support him over there covering the Lions. And we'll see you guys on Monday. Same time, same place, right, Dan?
Damn it, bro. Dude, y'all been stealing my tagline. Anyway, guys, thank you so much. Troy, we appreciate you for coming on in, showing love, replacing TD Finn's talk for this wonderful Friday. It's crazy how much my mood has improved. I'm just kidding. We love you, TD. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in. We will see you on Monday. Same time, same place. Deuces.
Peace.